Hey everybody, welcome to another off-the-shelf board game review. This week we're doing something just a little bit differently. We're going to go over a top 10 list of family-friendly games to play with younger family members. Now, if you're at all familiar with my channel, you know that family friendliness in board games is something that's extremely important to me. I always take a few moments with every single board game review I do to always talk about the family friendliness. If it's a game for the younger ones, a game for the older ones, or just one of those games you don't want on the table when the younger ones happen to be hanging around. So using some extremely scientific methods involving Boolean math, quantum physics, maybe some black hole theories, one or two, and the opinions of 6-year-olds and 9-year-olds who happen to share the same household with me, we've come up with a list of the top 10 board games to play with younger family members. Now, before we go anywhere, before we made this list, we had a couple rules that we had to follow before we made this list. Otherwise, we were going to have a couple different arguments and nobody was going to agree. So before we go anywhere, let's start with those rules. Rule number one, the game has to be in print. I can tell you just how great a board game is, but if you can't get a hold of it, it's pretty darn mean of me to tell you how great this game is if you can't even get it to enjoy the game with your kids. Case in point, Hero Quest. Fantastic game for ages 7, 8, 9, all the way up to probably about 14 years old. Probably the best darn dungeon crawl you could have ever found on the market, but you can't get it anymore. Rule number two, every one of these games had to be playable by ages 9 and under without modifying the rules too much. Just to show you what I mean, my 9-year-old's number one favorite game, Galaxy Trucker. My 6-year-old's number one favorite game, Super Dungeon Explorer. Now, while both these games are great for families, not too many 9-year-olds are going to enjoy Galaxy Trucker, and not too many 6-year-olds are going to enjoy Super Dungeon Explorer. Although if you ask my kids what their favorite games are, favorite number one game for a 6-year-old, favorite number one game for a 9-year-old, definitely not games that belong on this list though. And finally, the theme had to be family friendly also. Now, while I know for a fact my 6-year-old can play this game because he plays Super Dungeon Explorer with absolutely no problems, but there's still no way in heck I'm letting him play Zombicide, which is pretty good because he actually has no desire to play Zombicide after sneaking a peek at the cover when I wasn't paying attention. So, final rule of the three, has to be family friendly graphically, otherwise it's not on this list. Number 10 on the list is Hey, That's My Fish from Fantasy Flight Games. It's a game that lists for ages 8 and up, and the average play time is going to be about 25 minutes or less. Now, unfortunately, the game does have a little bit of a setup time because you have all these very small hexagon tiles, and you do have to build a board before you can play the game, but if you get everybody involved, it's not too terrible to set the game up pretty quickly. And if that does become too much of a bother for you, there's actually a really nice tablet implementation for this game. That's for the Apple Marketplace and also for the Android Marketplace, which is the exact same game, which is really darn cool. Now for Hey, That's My Fish, the objective is that every single player is going to be controlling a certain amount of penguins, depending on however many players you have. On your turn, you're simply going to pick one of your penguins and you're going to move them off one of these ice flow tiles and move them in a straight line along one of the faces of the ice flow hexagon tiles. When you leave a tile, you're simply going to pick up that tile, and every one of these tiles is going to have anywhere from 1 to 3 fish listed on it, and that's going to be part of your score at the end of the game. Now, if you happen to be left on a tile that's not supported by the main game board anymore, you're going to sink and you're going to be removed from the game, and that penguin of yours is going to be out of the game. Players are going to continue for the rest of the game, moving their penguins around, picking up the ice flow tile from the tile they just left until the game comes to an end when there's only one penguin left on the board. When there's only one penguin left on the board, all the players are going to add up the total amount of fish they have on their hex tiles that they happen to have on their side, and that's the person who's going to be declared the winner. Now, my kids really enjoy Hey, That's My Fish for the simple reason that it does play very quickly. There's a decent amount of strategy to it. The game plays differently every time you play it, thanks to the fact that you can change this board however you want. You can do really cool patterns like you can use like wave patterns. You can do the traditional almost circular pattern. Whatever you want to do, you make choke points or however you want to have fun. My kids actually enjoy setting up the game board because they make the game play differently every single time they play it. I enjoy it for the simple fact that the game does play quickly, and for the simple fact that there's a good amount of strategy to this game, and it's actually fun, believe it or not, for adults. I've actually pulled this game out for people my age, and they've had a heck of a lot of fun with it, and they've wanted to play the game more than once. If you want a game that's really good for ages 6 and up, has a lot of replay value, has a very quick play time, Check out Hey, That's My Fish. Next up, we have Phantom Society. Now, Phantom Society is a classic game of memory, plus the movie Ghostbusters mixed in with just a little bit of Minesweeper, which is that old PC game that's been around for probably a good 15 years now, where you're basically going around trying to lay out flags to figure out exactly where the mines are. Except in Phantom Society, those mines happen to be ghosts, and this is also a team-based game where the ghosts are trying to hide from the ghost hunters who need to find all 4 ghosts before everybody does $45,000 or more worth of damage to the hotel. See, the way this works is every one of these rooms is going to be worth anywhere from 1 point, which is $1,000, all the way up to 6 points, which is worth $6,000. On a player's turn, they simply need to pick one of the rooms and flip it over. If there's no ghosts in that room, the hunters still need to keep hunting for the ghosts, and the ghosts are going to keep doing more damage to the hotel. But the hunters happen to find the rooms that happen to have the ghosts hiding in them, they're going to be one step closer to winning the game. If they're heroes, the ghost hunters can find all 4 of the ghosts that are hidden throughout the board before all the hotel takes a total of $45,000 worth of damage or more. The ghost hunters win, and if they manage to do $45,000 or more in damage, the ghosts happen to win the game. Now, this is a really cool little game. It's an awesome version of memory with a little bit of Minesweeper thrown in, where on the players' turns, they need to go around and try to figure out where these ghosts are hidden. Now, the ghosts have certain rules that they have to follow, and this is what's going to help you make educated guesses and try to figure out exactly where those ghosts are hiding. See, the way it's going to work is a ghost can always damage one room that's next to one of their ghosts, and they can also damage rooms that happen to be in a straight line from their ghosts. So on your turn, you may destroy this room right here, which is going to give the ghost hunters an idea that there's going to be a ghost in one of these surrounding rooms. So you need to play smart as the ghosts, trying to destroy the rooms without giving away your location to the ghost hunters, who need to be using the process of elimination by figuring out what ghosts have been found, because red ghosts can only hide in red rooms, green ghosts can only hide in green rooms, and blue ghosts can only hide in the blue rooms, and white ghosts can only hide in the white room. It's a very fun little game. It plays pretty darn quickly, and if you want, you can always switch sides and play the game from a different aspect, adding to the fun of the game. There's one small little negative to the game, though, and that's the fact that it does require a little bit of memory to remember exactly where your ghosts are hiding. So the younger kids are going to have a little bit of a problem, you'll notice. You probably don't want to be having the younger players play the ghosts unless they're playing with an older adult who can remember where the ghosts are, because occasionally you'll see the younger members remove a room and say, wait, was that legal? I don't even know if I had a ghost next to that room anymore. Number 8 is Rampage, or as the game was renamed, Terror Meeple City. Thanks to copyright laws, they had to change the title of the game, but it doesn't change the fact that this is still a fantastic game to play with younger kids. The game lists as a game for ages 8 and up, and you can easily play this game with 5, 6, 7, 8, and even 9-year-olds. And you even play it with drunk adults, but that's not what this video is about, so let's not get into that topic quite yet. Anyways, in Rampage, or Terror in Maple City, the objective of the game is each player is a dinosaur, think Godzilla, on a rampage throughout the town. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to be flicking one of these little discs around, which is going to allow you to move to various places and destroy the game board, destroy these towers, and also breathe fire all over the game board, using special abilities from cards and just going across the board and having a heck of a lot of fun, flicking discs, throwing cards at each other, trying to knock each other over, trying to take away the teeth from the other players, and basically just having a heck of a good time. Now, this is a fantastic game to play with the younger kids because they can have a lot of fun pretending to be Godzilla, tearing across the board, having a lot of fun watching these buildings fall all the way apart. And to be quite honest with you, when I play this game with the younger kids, nobody cares about the score at the end because everybody's just having so dang much fun destroying Meeple City. If you want a really fun game that's a little bit of a dexterity game because you got to be flicking these discs around, a lot of randomness because you got these extra special powers, and you just want to see a smile on a kid's face as they get the body slam a stadium and watch meeples fly across the board, check out Terror in Meeple City. Number 7 is King of Tokyo, taking the classic mechanics of giant rubber-suited guys trying to destroy a foam core city, or as we like to call it, Godzilla, and mixing that with the Yahtzee mechanics, and you get King of Tokyo. A very simple game where players are simply rolling dice and trying to get matches on their dice, except this game amps it up with 100% more adrenaline by making every player control a classic monster, or maybe a not-so-classic monster from the traditional films of the giant guys in the giant rubber suits destroying the cities. Simple objective of the game: be the first player to get 20 victory points or be the last giant monster standing in Tokyo City. Really fun game with lots of replay value thanks to variable powers, extra things that makes each one of these players very special if you pick up some of the expansions, and some really simple gameplay that anybody can understand, even from the ages 5 and up. Fun thing about this game is, though, even though it does offer player elimination, which is always kind of a negative, especially with the younger players, the cool thing is that once players start getting eliminated, it's not too long before the game is going to come to an end. King of Tokyo, I think, is a really great game, especially for ages 6 and up. Fantastic dice. It's always fun rolling dice. Very simple math of 1 plus 2 plus 3 or minus 1 plus variable powers. Make sure this game is always going to stay fresh and always be lots of fun. Number 6 on the list is Forbidden Island, probably one of the most mislabeled games that's going to be on this list. Forbidden Island lists as a game for ages 10 and up, and this is very much easily a game that can be played by ages 6 and up extremely easily. Not too much text you have to read in this game, and plus the game is pretty darn easy to figure out. It's designed by Matt Leacock, the same guy who designed Pandemic, and you're going to see a lot of similarities between this game and Pandemic itself. Basically, in Forbidden Island, the players are adventurers trying to travel around an island, trying to find matching cards so they can try to recover all 4 of these artifacts across this island before the island sinks. On every single one of these turns, various locations across this island are going to start sinking, and if they sink too far, they're going to be removed from the board. The players need to rush to make sure they find all 4 of these artifacts before the entire island sinks, or before their only escape, the helicopter, sinks, because if the helicopter sinks before they recover all the various artifacts, the players are going to lose the game. Now, the really cool thing about Forbidden Island is that it is a cooperative game, so the players can work together. The other very cool thing about this game is that this game is very language independent. You don't need to be able to read to figure out how to play the game. You can see the picture of the line, figure out what it means. You can see the water rises. Doesn't take much reading to know that when it says water rises, things are going to get a little bit more difficult for all of our adventurers. All the players have very special powers, making sure that all the players are going to play just a little bit differently. You have a diver and their special ability. You have the navigator. Every one of these heroes are going to bring their own special powers to the game, making the game play differently. And not only that, the game is going to be set up differently every single time you play the game. This game has a lot of fantastic replay value to it. It is really cool with these really cool little miniatures here that come with the game. And not only that, this game is under $25, and that's the MSRP. That's not even looking at wholesale prices. You get all these fantastic components for under $25, and you're going to get a lot of awesome gameplay that you're not going to get bored of by playing this game with the younger kids. Number 5 on the list is Castle Panic, another cooperative game where all the players are playing together to try to defeat a board that's trying to make life as difficult for all the players. In Castle Panic, this is a fantasy-themed game where you have orcs, trolls, goblins, and other fantasy creatures who are trying to destroy the castle that the heroes are trying to protect. On every single turn, all these bad guys are going to start slowly advancing towards the center of the board, and players are going to have to cooperatively play cards together to try to defeat the trolls, try to defeat the goblins, and also destroy the orcs, which are invading this castle to try to destroy the castle. Now, the really cool thing about this game is that it is a cooperative game, so players are playing cooperatively, working together, trying to solve a common goal of defeating all these invaders that are trying to destroy this castle and make our players lose the game. The really cool thing about this game is it does force the players to use a lot of cooperation. They need to talk back and forth. They're able to share their cards back and forth between each other, but all the players are working together with very limited resources in an effort to stop all these bad guys who are going to keep coming every single turn. It's going to be an eternal onslaught because these guys are going to keep coming, and there are a lot of bad guys in this game trying to take out your castle. It's a really fun little game. My kids seem to enjoy this game quite a bit. Actually, they enjoy it a lot more than I thought they would have before I even purchased the game. And they do request it quite a bit, especially my youngest son, who really likes it. He loves the theme. He likes the fact that we're always working together towards a common enemy, and he likes the fact that the game is never easy. We always have very close calls every time we play this game, whether it's the luck of the draw with the cards, the luck of the draw with the enemies entering the board, or just whatever happens. It's always a close game where we barely win just by the skin of our teeth. Now, do know that when I play cooperative games with my kid, I am not the alpha-style gamer who tells them exactly what to do. I make sure they're making a lot of the decisions and they're doing a lot of the planning. and we have a lot of fun with this game. And the really cool thing about this game is since it's cooperative, plays all the way from 1 all the way up to 5 players quite well, and it's also very enjoyable at those different player counts. Number 4 on the list is Crossmaster Jr., a game which, believe it or not, almost didn't make it to the list because of its older sibling, Crossmaster Arena, which is how my kids were introduced to the Crossmaster universe. See, Crossmaster Jr. takes the gameplay of Crossmaster Arena and simplifies it enough so the younger kids can play it. So my kids unfortunately find this gameplay a little bit too simplistic for them. But again, remember, this is coming from a 6-year-old who plays games such as Super Dungeon Explorer and Takenoko, and a 9-year-old who plays games such as Galaxy Trucker and his number 2 favorite game, Crossmaster Arena. So on to Crossmaster Jr. Crossmaster Jr. is a game where players are controlling Crossmasters trying to accomplish various adventures. Each player is going to come with an adventure book. There are 7 adventures in the game, and these adventures can take anywhere from 5 to 10 or even 15 minutes to complete. Whoever does the best on each adventure is going to get the most amount of victory points. After a certain amount of adventures decided before you start playing the game, players are going to add up all the victory points. Whoever has the most amount of victory points is going to be the grand winner of the game. The adventures are going to be things such as trying to defeat the other Crossmasters on the board. Adventures are going to be things such as rescuing captured animals that have been captured by various bad guys that aren't quite part of the game, but that's just the theme of the game. And there's other things such as playing tag, where you're just trying to catch the other player. And again, these adventures are all listed in this adventure book. And after you're done going through a certain amount of adventures, you're going to add up the scores and you're going to figure out who the winner of the game is. Now, the really cool thing about this game is it does play for the younger players. You can very easily play this game ages 5 and up. The gameplay is very quick. You can easily get a couple adventures in under 30 minutes and have a heck of a lot of fun. And the really cool thing about this game is each single adventure is going to slowly add more gameplay to the game, slowly adding more complexity to the game, to the point that if you really, really wanted to, you could play Crossmaster Jr., go through all 7 of the adventures, and by then you're actually ready to move up into Crossmaster Arena, which is at the point my kids are. Now, the other really cool thing about this, though, is that if you already play Crossmaster Arena, all these Crossmasters do play in Crossmaster Arena, allowing you to keep enjoying this game, and that's why this game is still part of the collection, because these maps, these Crossmasters, and all the other extra add-ons still play quite well with Crossmaster Arena. But if you're looking for a game to play with the younger players and you like the idea of these really cool painted little guys going on little adventures, whether it's going against each other, whether it's going out playing little games of tag, or whether it's just trying to capture animals across the board, whoever's going to be the most victory points at the end of the game is going to win. If that's the kind of style game you like, you can't go wrong with Crossmaster Jr. Number 3 on the list is also the final and third cooperative game on this list, and that's going to be 12 Realms. Now, 12 Realms is a cooperative game very much with a very Disney theme, where all the players are going to be heroes that are trying to save these realms from Lords of Darkness. Every one of these realms has a Lord of Darkness who's trying to invade these realms, bringing along their invaders along with them, and the players need to be working together to prevent these tracks from reaching level 20. If either one of these tracks on any one of these realms currently in play reaches level 20, before our heroes can work together and defeat all the Lords of Darkness in play, our heroes are going to lose. And if they work together and defeat all these Lords of Darkness before any of these tracks reach level 20, our heroes are going to win. Players are going to have to wander around, picking up things such as treasures, which are going to make their heroes more powerful. They're going to have to defeat these invaders who are going to be across the lands. They're going to be randomly appearing from the flips of cards. And players need to be working together, traveling among all these lands, trying to make sure that the invasion tracks do not get so high that the players cannot stop these invaders. Now, my kids are really, really enjoying this game quite a lot. They enjoy the theme, they enjoy the fact that we're all working together, and they also enjoy the fact that this game has a lot of different difficulty levels. When I first started playing the game with them, I played without any of the extra add-ons to make the game much more difficult, and they had a very good challenge. Matter of fact, we came very close to actually losing the game, because they were making decisions that probably weren't the most optimal, but they were having a lot of fun with the game, doing lots of exploration, defeating lots of these bad guys, and really, really enjoying the game. Now they are a little bit better with the game and they understand a little bit better. I can start adding in a lot of the little bit of extra difficulties, such as the castles and the bad guys that are a little bit more difficult to defeat. We can start throwing those in there too. So my kids really, really enjoy this game. Heck, it's number 3 on the list right now, so you have to understand they're really liking this game quite a bit. They like the cooperativeness of the game. They love the theme. They love the fact that we're all working together on these, trying to take out these lords of darkness. And they also love the fact that the game plays differently every time we play. Different lords, different difficulties, different heroes, different gameplay. It's a game they're enjoying quite a bit. Number 2 on the list is actually a really big surprise for me because this is a game that's been in our family for quite a long time, and I thought my kids were actually outgrowing it. And it's kind of cool that they haven't outgrown, because I'm not afraid to admit this is a game that I actually really enjoy playing with them, and that's going to be the game of Labyrinth. Now in Labyrinth, each one of the players is going to control a wizard, and you have a very simple objective. Every single turn you can change the layout of the game board by sliding one of these tiles in to rearrange the paths for the board and where you can reach with your wizard. After you lay your tile out, you're simply going to move to a location, and if you happen to land on one of the treasures you have, you can go ahead and claim that treasure, and players are going to keep taking turns adjusting how the board is going to be laid out, moving along on these maps, collecting these various treasures until you reach your eventual goal. Now, we've played this game so many times, and we've changed the rules to this game so many times based on just how much time we have to play. Whether we play a simple game of everybody gets 2 cards and the first person to get their 2 treasures wins, whether we lay 3 treasures out in advance and we're basically racing against each other to try to get those treasures, or if we just play for a set amount of time and see who can get the most amount of treasures in that set amount of time. We play this game so many different ways, and I think that's why we really enjoy this game, is because there's so much ways of different playing. We can play it whether we have a little bit of time, whether we have a lot of time to play, and it's just really, really cool having a board that is constantly adjusting every time you play the game, allowing you to play the game differently every time you play it, and it's really cool seeing just how different these boards can be every time you play it, changing up the gameplay variety. Now, like I said, I was really, really surprised to see this game on the list, especially at number 2. I'm really happy I made it that high. It's a game that I have a heck of a lot of fun playing with my kids. I'm glad they still enjoy playing it, and this is definitely one of those games that can be very easily played by the younger players, depending on how you want to change up the rules just a little bit. But it's simple enough for the younger players to play, but there's enough depth and strategy to the game that's going to keep you entertained up through the ages. And finally, at number 1, we have Catan Jr., the poster child for better family gaming. No longer are you stuck playing games where you're forced to roll a die, moving around a board, going in circles, trying to play very simplistic games with your family. Now you can play more complex games that are extremely family friendly. You have Catan Jr., a game that plays for ages 6 and up, and the basic idea for the game is you're just trying to be the first person to build your 7th pirate lair on the board. If you're the first person to do so, you win the game. But this game is a little more complex than that, because where you build your pirate lair is going to decide where you're going to get resources based on a little bit of the randomness of a die. Also, you're going to be able to trade resources with the market, and you're able to use all these resources to build pirate lairs, to build your pirate ships, and also possibly going to build these poly cards, which are going to give you extra special powers. Not only that, you need to build smartly when you're playing this game, because you can actually cut off the other players and prevent them from getting the resources that they need. This is a very subtly complex game that's very complex for what it is, a child-friendly game, but yet it's still simplistic enough that younger kids can go ahead and play it. Matter of fact, if you're a fan of tabletop, I'd recommend you go ahead and check out the tabletop episode where Will Wheaton plays a complete game of Catan Jr. with a group of kids, and you see that even the younger kids can have a heck of a lot of fun with this younger game. Now, my kids really enjoy this game quite a bit. They love the fact of the trading. They love the game, the fact that they can kind of play against each other. They can block off the other players. And of course, the pirate theme is always awesome for anybody. I hope you enjoyed this top 10 video list of games to play with your younger family members. But before we go, I wanted to leave a couple honorable mentions and also a couple surprises. Now, this list was made up by my kids. They actually sat down and I discussed with them, trying to figure out what their top games were of a certain age range, so I got a lot of input from them. So before I made the list, I kind of had some general ideas of what I thought would be on the list, and I was actually really surprised at the games that didn't make it, and I was also surprised on the games that just barely missed the cutoff. Now, the realm of the games that didn't make it that really, really surprised me, first of all, would be Kids of Carcassonne. Now this is a more simplified version of Carcassonne where players are just basically laying out tiles, and the only objective of the players is they need to lay out the tiles in a way that forms continuous roads. And when players lay out these roads and they complete a dead end, they're going to lay out their meeples on the board. If they're able to put out all their meeples on the board before any of the other players, they're going to be the winner. Now my oldest son loved this game when he was younger. It was one of his favorite games. He would ask to play it all the time. But my youngest son, he just never really picked up into this game, and for some reason he just never really liked this game. And it's also interesting to know that my oldest son is the one who loves the abstracts the most, and my youngest one is the one who loves the theme the most. So maybe that has something to do with it. But again, Kids of Carcassonne I thought was a great younger kids game, and I was really shocked that it didn't make it on the list at all. And it actually ended up being the least favorite game out of all of them for my youngest son. Another game that really surprised me was Mice and Mystics, which is a very thematic dungeon crawl where the players are playing anthropomorphic heroes, mice trying to go through a randomizing dungeon, and it's random in the fact that every one of these dungeons is their own little adventure, and it's going to be a complete series of adventures that all the heroes are going to go through, and it basically tells a story. I figured this would be really high up on the list, and when I found out that it was low on the list, I had to ask why, and it comes to turn out that my kids loved this game when they first played it, but they didn't like the fact that there was zero replay value to it, for them at least. They said once we knew the story, we had no interest in going back through the story ever again. And I have to say that it kind of actually makes sense with what they say, because we play games such as the D&D Adventure System games and other kind of dungeon crawl style games, and they love those a lot because they're different every single time they play it. Whereas Mice and Mystics, it was the exact same game every time we played it. Sure, the heroes were cool, the storyline was fantastic, but after they beat it, they never wanted to go back after that. Now into the realm of games that just barely missed the cut. And again, some of these were kind of a surprise to me. The first one was Corridor, which barely missed the cut, and my oldest one was really championing for this one because he loves it. It's a very simple game where the players are basically setting up walls, trying to block the other player from making it across the board. It's a very simplistic abstract game where you have one of two options on your turn. One, you can advance your pawn on one of the hex grids, or you can simply lay out a wall anywhere you want on the board. The first player to get their pawn across the board is going to be the winner of the game. Now my older son, who loves abstracts, absolutely loves this game. He can play this game 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times in a row and still asks to play the game one more time. So my younger son, again, not too much in the abstract, so he kind of voted this one down, but this game barely missed the cutoff for the top 10 list. Next on the list was games that kind of got cut off because they weren't really games, they're more of activities, but still a heck of a lot of fun for the younger kids. And these are Rory Story Cubes. Now there's no real rules to the game. You basically play any way you like. But the general idea is you're basically going to take all the dice, you're going to roll them, and you're going to create a story based on what you roll on the dice. The older the kid is, the better the story is going to be, where the younger the kids are, it's going to be the clock met the pyramid that was stuck by the abacus with the falling star, whereas the older kids can actually give you some really cool stories. Now the nice thing about story cubes is it is a part of the brain that doesn't get used too much. It's the creative side of our brain, and I think that's the really cool thing about story cubes is kids are forced to come up with these grand, fantastic stories, which uses that part of the brain, that creative side, that I think is always good to exercise. Not only that, there's 3 different boxes. Each one of them has different dice with them. You can mix and match as you like to create your stories. And again, that's Rory's Story Cubes. Next up on the list was Suro of the Seas. This is a game that was actually fairly popular for both my sons, but again, just missed the cutoff. Now this is a more slightly different version of the traditional game of Suro, the game of the path. In Suro of the Seas, basically every single player is going to be controlling a ship, and on your turn you're going to put a tile in front of your ship that allows your ship to move across the board. What you're trying to do by placing these tiles on this board is you're going to force your ship to stay on the board the longest, while other players are going to be placing tiles that are going to force your ship to go off the board or get devoured by a sea monster. Simple way is to win this one. If you're the last ship standing, you win the game. This is a game that my kids really love. They have a lot of fun with. It's not too hard to explain. It's very easy to teach. And matter of fact, it's even enjoyed by the older adults because it plays up to 8 players. The rules aren't that hard to teach. It plays pretty darn quickly, although it does have player elimination, which slightly takes it down on the list. Next up, we have Survive Escape from Atlantis, a fantastic game which has been remade by Stronghold Games. Basically, the players each control a certain amount of meeples, and you need to be the first person to get all your meeples off of Atlantis and onto a safe island. The thing that makes it so difficult is the fact that there are going to be sea monsters, there are going to be whales, and there's going to be various creatures that are trying to devour your meeples. Can you be the first person to get all your meeples onto the safe island? And all your meeples are worth different amounts of victory points. Whoever gets the most points in meeples off Atlantis and onto the safe island by the end of the game is the winner. Now this game is really, really awesome, but I voted this game off the list personally because it is extremely cutthroat and backstabby. Now my kids, they can handle that very easily. They've learned how to lose gracefully and how to have a heck of a lot of fun, especially when they start ganging up on dad, so it's a-okay for them. But we all kind of agreed that not every kid is able to lose gracefully, and not every child is able to accept the fact that a game this mean, where you can pick on other players and make their lives very, very difficult. And finally, one last honorable mention is Blocus. I'm sure you forgot which child picked this one. My oldest son, who loves the abstracts. He really loves Blocus. He has a lot of fun with it. He requests it quite often, and it's also another game that plays very well, and actually, believe it or not, it even makes it in the age range requirements. Again, it just barely missed the list. It almost made it there, and I just want to give a couple extra honorable mentions and a couple extra surprises to add to this list. I hope you enjoyed this top 10 video list of games to play with your younger family members. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the YouTube comments down below. I'll make sure to answer any comments or questions that are left there. Also, feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's going to be otsbgr@gmail.com. Again, if you want to see more of these kind of videos like this, make sure you leave those comments. If you want to see less of those videos, again, leave those comments down below. If you're curious, I give you the top 3 lists for both my sons. My youngest son has top 3 favorite games in order: Super Dungeon Explorer, Takinoko, and Labyrinth. And my oldest son, my 9-year-old, his games in order: number 1 is Galaxy Trucker, number 2 is Crossmaster, and number 3 is 12 Realms. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Now this is an awesome game because it's teaching kids a lot of couple really cool things. First, it's teaching kids how to barter. It's teaching kids a little bit of strategy as they're trying to figure out exactly where they want to move around the board. Because in this game, you can actually cut off the other players, and you can also cut off cats who like to walk in front of board game reviews. When you're trying to do a video as they stare right at the camera, thinking that they're doing really cool stuff, but they're being a typical cat, Hi.